What is up? My name is EX Shaky. I'm known for a series of memes and shit posts regarding BlazBlue and BB Tag. You may also know me from the Sega NT as an ace player, and you may have ran into me when I played GVS. I used to play Turn A, Phantom, and Tsunaki during that game. And I'm just here to talk about my perspective on Maxi Boots on from a GVS player. So I played GVS for about 2 years now. I started off as a Dre player, then I swapped to X1 Kai. I pretty much went to GVS without very much knowledge of Gundam in general. Like, I had a vague remembrance of Destiny and G, and mainly Wing were the only suits I remember, like Wing Zero, Death Side, even Heavy Armor. But if you ask me any other suit after that, I couldn't tell you. But regardless, I played the game because my friend wanted me to play it. I tried it. I actually had a lot of fun with it. So, with that being said, MBON has just came out recently, and I'm enjoying the game quite a bit. I definitely like the suits in it a little bit more, and there's a few other things. However, there's a few different things I may like more in MBON compared to GVS and vice versa. So, I'm just here to talk about it, pretty much from the perspective of someone who started from GVS, because as some, I always feel like there was some bias regarding like people who played the earlier games like Full Boost and stuff like that. However, I started from GVS, so my perspective on MBON is a little bit different. So we're just gonna break it down. So for those who don't know, GVS was pretty much the first quote-unquote versus game to be released into the States. Before there was Full Boost, but Full Boost you had to import it from Japan because it never had a US release. MBON is the sequel to Full Boost that came to America, and people have been loving the hell out of the game, and I don't blame it. This game is incredibly fun. So the difference between them is pretty much Boost Dive and Strikers. Pretty much everything else is rather similar. Movements are pretty much the same. They're both similar, minus Extend that exists as MBON, and a variety of suits. Well, that's at least how I see it. There might be a few other things regarding the suits itself that are different, but I'm going to get on that at some point. Alright, so I'm going to talk about MBON first. Since this is the most recent game, I'm going to talk about like what are the things I really like about this game compared to GVS. Well, for starters, there's a lot more variety in suits. GVS roster was small. I think it had like under 100 suits or something, and a lot of them were DLC. But even with that said, a lot of fan favorites were also lacking. That didn't really affect me though, because again, I didn't even have a Gundam background. So me being just like, oh, where's my 7 Setsuna suits? Well, that didn't really matter to me because I didn't know who the hell Setsuna was. But so that didn't really affect me. But I know it hurt a lot of other people who were just missing like their 7 Setsuna suits, their other Barbados Lupus Rex. Actually, I don't think Barbados Lupus Rex was out at the time. But there's a few other suits that I'm missing. There was no Destiny Gundams. There was no Estrella Gundams. Even some of the movies were missing. It kind of bothered a lot of people, but it didn't really bother me, so I wasn't really affected by it. In regards to that, however, the variety in this game feels good. I don't have to worry about running into the same suit as often, despite, you know, everyone still going to Lupus and Red Tail. However, that's probably the biggest thing I noticed. People still gravitate to fan favorites. I did mention DLC. There's currently no DLC in MBON when I make this video, besides Lupus Rex, which was pre-order. But DLC was a big issue in GVS because the total cost of all the DLC was like twice the cost of the game itself. And Hot Scramble was pre-order and you could not get him. Another issue was the fact that some of the DLC wasn't good. How many of y'all actually realized that Gujin was a DLC in GVS and you probably never saw him? You know why? Because he wasn't good. And then you had some DLCs that were problematic. Like Age 1. We're not going to talk about that. They didn't nerf Age 1! Ever! They didn't touch Spiral Mode! Ever! So, the suit variety in this game is really good. The next thing I like is, I mentioned before, the Extend Burst. Extend Burst is pretty much not included in GVS. It was introduced in MBON, and it pretty much lets you get out of a combo or being hit when you have burst at 50%. which means you can get out for free when someone decides to pick Fighting Burst. They hit you, you'd be like, ah, nah, peace. However, with that being said, it kind of ruined some of my favorite suits when I picked Fighting. Rest in peace, my boy Phantom. But having that is so good for the game. Like, being able to just get out of a checkmate situation was something that was lacking in GVS, because I cannot tell you how many times I've hit someone with Turn A in that game at 50% and killed them because I had Blaze Burst. It's kind of stupid. So you get out checkmate situation that way. There's some other smaller things that are pretty good, like custom music choices weren't a thing. They have better cosmetics in this game. There are actually techniques in this game that I didn't even know existed, and that also were in GVS apparently. And probably the biggest thing, which I feel like would actually kill GVS, was the inability to stream on PS4. For some unknown reason, you could not do that. But in MBON, you can. You're just stuck listening to Crossbow Vanguard themes the entire time, which isn't a problem. You can also just change your own music too, so I guess that would solve the issue as well. I'm not sure how that works. Those are pretty much the general things I like about MBON. Alright, so what do I like about GVS? Well, well, the system, but the suit, what did I like about GVS? Actually, I feel like the ease of access for GVS is probably one of its better points. People are gonna call me crazy, but when I look at all the techniques you have to learn and all the things to keep in mind when playing MBON, it's pretty jarring how much information and stuff you need to know. The game is several years old, and it feels like it's going to take a while for some newer players to catch up to the older people who've been playing the game since Full Boost or even played in Japanese arcades. And so GVS kind of helped close the gap there. Boost Dive kind of just like, hey, you don't know how to do this one thing? It doesn't matter because now Boost Dive cuts tracking, does everything, does your laundry, do your homework, all of it. But regardless, so ease of access is pretty good. So for people who are like new to the version series, it's a pretty good start, in my opinion. Another thing I enjoyed about the game, which isn't really noted, which is kind of hit or miss for a lot of people, is I actually did enjoy how chaotic the game was. It was fast-paced. It was just all over the place. Everyone was moving. Though that game was incredibly enabling for melee suits by how fast you can get in. It was like, yo, you can just hang with it. It was like playing Marvel 3. It's just chaotic. Everything is just cheap. Though some suits were kind of not valid, but we're not going to talk about that. So there are a few things I'm kind of just split down the middle with regarding MBON versus GVS, but specifically stuff like the suits themselves. I'm talking specifically of the suits I played in GVS and MBON. So for example, X1 Kai. I actually like X1 a lot in MBON more than GVS, despite them being rather close in how much enjoyment I have. But then we go to some of the other suits that are a little bit extreme case, like Sinanju and F91. So in the case of Sinanju, he actually had a move that belongs to Montero now, and it says BC, and it's pretty much a windmill that you couldn't shoot through, and you had to deal with it. He doesn't have it in MBON, and I'm pretty upset that he doesn't. I guess additionally, Sinanju actually worked really well with GVS mechanics, so there's an advantage there. So I found him more fun in GVS than MBON. F91 is a complete different suit in freaking GVS. He's a 400 in that game, which is a 2.5 in MBON. One of F91's weakness is literally how if he gets hit, he just dies. And it's just so it's terrible. It's absolutely tragic. So with that being said, because he's like a 2.5k or 400, he doesn't really evaporate as often anymore. Additionally, the moves that he only has in his install in MBON, you actually have whenever you want in GVS. So I can just hit BC and then you take like 120 damage. It's actually hilarious. It was pretty, it's kind of ridiculous considering that boost dive, if you did it right, if you did boost step dive, it cuts tracking. you're in install, which also cut tracking, and you're throwing out a projectile armored move boost. And you just have to deal with that. It was actually dumb. And that's why I really love F91 in that game. And then we have Phantom, which is a very funny case because he didn't actually change between the game. It's more like the system mechanics made him weaker. He was pretty okay in GVS. He wasn't amazing. But because of Blaze Burst, his ability to rob you was pretty ridiculous in comparison. But in MBON, you have Extend Burst. And when you go into Phantom Light and you hit someone with Extend Burst, it's very sad. It makes me sad every time. And then we have X3. X3 is a funny case because he's kind of weaker in MBON. But specifically in GVS, he had the ability to throw out his force field. And then he has specific follow-up that he doesn't have in MBON. What made this hilarious is the fact that he could do his sword install and do it again immediately. And a lot of suits had to either step it or block it. And if they didn't know how to do either of those, they just got mollywopped because it just knocked you down. And you can combo off of it too. So it's pretty hilarious. But of course there's other suits where I'm just split down the middle with. So suits I'm pretty much split down the middle with was like X2. X2 feels very similar. Banshee actually has a full screen Jirobi that you can control in GVS. But other than that, I didn't feel like the suit was that different. I feel like the system mechanics in both games really fit her to the point that it doesn't feel like she's superior in one version or the other. Same with Hyaku Shiki. Turner is a very funny case because despite me feeling like he was good, he was really good in GVS actually, and how I enjoyed it, I think the purpose I played that suit is still the same, which is literally just 4BB into Super. So my opinion on that suit didn't change. Zone Dre is a funny case, because I definitely feel like stuff like Boost Dive and how fast you can get across the map in GVS kind of counterplayed what Drone Dre wanted to do, which was set up her aerial effect. I don't remember what it's called. That's my fault. Because by the end of the series, or the game's lifespan, they buffed her to the point that she has the ability to cancel all her moves into a weave, which is kind of funny. Which made her really annoying and incredibly hilarious. G Arcane is another funny case because they pretty much trade her sniper rifle for Dragoons, which apparently her Dragoons are really good. Thick lasers that track. And honestly, from what I heard, apparently the freaking pilot of the suit never actually was a sniper. She just baited all the time, so she didn't deserve the sniper. And then we have Hainu. Hainu is kind of funny because in GVS, that suit had a Jirobi. It was Charsot B. But other than that, and also they buffed it at some point, so he has Psycho Frame Brown Star, which was kind of funny. But other than that, that suit also felt relatively the same. So in MBON, as I explained before, X1 is actually more fun. It's not because they nerfed him or anything. Why did they have to cut off X1's arms like that? He didn't deserve to slow down. What did he do wrong? C-Book is so cool. Why did they have to do that to my boy? Come on. But it feels more like he's the same, but the mechanics in the game makes him a little bit better. The only thing I miss from GVS C-Book is he had a different AC to replace his assist. It was his shield throw, but it was faster. It still had similar properties, like it would cut projectiles. It was pretty good. You can also confirm off of it. But in MBON, that's his 2B. And it also gives you another ability, which allows you to just fastball to the ground. So the next suit we have is Arch. Or is it Archie? I don't know. Arch is a better version of Zwei. So the reason why he's even on this list is because I also played Zwei in GVS. And at first, I thought I liked Zwei more, but as time went on, I came to the realization that Arch was actually ridiculously good. That suit is dangerous and pretty degenerate. It's probably one of my favorite suits in the game at the moment. Well, one of them. There's one more suit I like a little bit more. But I loved that suit more than his GVS iteration with his Y. I was okay. He just isn't better than Arch. So lastly, we have Buster Gundam. Buster didn't actually change that much, but what changed was how strong his really bad matchups he had in GVS were. Like Master Gundam. I don't want to remember Master Gundam. I have bad memories of Master Gundam. So playing Buster now, he actually feels playable. There's still some, he still might get mauled, but he's not going to get set play by stuff like strikers and really fast melee suits. It was kind of rough. Alright, so this is where things may get a little bit opinionated, because I'm going to talk about the two things that people really didn't like in GVS or had mixed opinions about. One of them was strikers and the other one was boost eye. So regarding boost eye, I actually didn't mind it so much, though it enabled some melee suits, and it honestly made some of the other suits unplayable, like Dynamis. Dynamis was not spectacular at GVS from what I heard, because you actually couldn't snipe people's landing. It was really hard to. But in MBON, it's a lot easier to snipe people's melee, so that's one less thing to worry about. But I came to later find out that there is something in MBON that's rather similar, which only specific suits had access to, which confused me. But I feel like that's a good enough. It's a good thing in a way, because it's like, hey, I got some type of reward for practicing this, and it helps me move around better. Like, I like the idea of that. There wasn't very much techniques you could learn in GVS. I mean, you could go back and learn all the other old full boost stuff, but you really didn't need it because of boost eye. But with that being said, it's just like, is boost eye really a problem when there's something similar in the game already? I don't understand. And now we talk about strikers. Yes, strikers are a great system. No, it's not! Strikers are actually bullcrap. You think I'm going to actually sit here and defend that? No! I don't want to hear it. I didn't enjoy dealing with Gold Sumo. I didn't like dealing with... I was lucky I didn't actually have to deal with multiple pressures by Big O. He had more than one pressure assist at some point. That was dumb. The idea that you had to play a specific suit to get these assists was pretty dumb. The fact that some assists would retract if it fired multiple shots was also dumb. There's a bunch of stuff that was dumb about assists. I ain't gonna sit here and say, no, that shit was good. No, that shit was not good. I definitely did not enjoy getting hit in green lock range by a giant fat green Jirovi because I wasn't looking. That shit was obnoxious. However, I do think it's kind of funny that people had issues with assists for strikers in that game when some assists in MBON are pretty ridiculous. Like X1 Kai. There's a reason why I like X1 Kai so much. That assist is literally a Gundam versus assist. Have you seen the tracking on that thing? But that's not even part of it. That's like the easiest example. For some odd reason, Wing Zero Endless Waltz Talgi's assist retracts each shot. Have you seen Gunnerzaku's assist? I've gotten hit by the missiles from over a building. So I just find it kind of funny that people had issues with strikers and Gundam Versus when some of the assists in MBON were pretty crazy too. But that's honestly my opinion. I don't really have an issue with a thing where like, hey, everyone has access to it. So honestly, I don't find it a big issue. Though I find it funny that some of these assists also gives you the ability to fastball, and not every suit can also fastball. So that confused me even more. It's kind of, it's hard for me to explain. I didn't really mind boost dice and strikers that much, despite them being pretty, especially strikers being pretty bullshit. But because everyone else had the bullshit, it wasn't like a tremendous big deal. It's like everyone have an X Factor in Marvel. Like, Everyone can use it. I don't see it being an issue. Even though it's completely busted, everyone can use it. So the final thing is, which of the two games do I prefer more between GVS and MBON? Honestly, despite how much I really love certain suits in GVS, like I love Sinanju in GVS so much more than MBON. I love Phantom a little bit more than I like him in MBON. I like F91 so much more in GVS compared to MBON. However, I actually like MBON more. I like the idea that there's new techniques and more information of stuff I just didn't know that I can practice to try and improve. I like the variety of suits that I get to see, so like, maybe I won't see the same suit every time like I did in GVS where everyone was trying to play Exia and fucking Barbados. There's also like, and additionally, despite how much fun I had with Sinanju and F91 in that game, in Turn A, I like the idea that I don't have to pick Turn A anymore to deal with like specific matchups because melee suits were so good and actually, the one suit I really enjoy in MBON compared to everything I like more compared to how much time I play the suit in GVS, and that's Destiny. I really like Destiny in MBON. It's the suit I have the most games with. It feels like a suit that fits me very well, and I'm kind of sad it didn't exist before. It's such a fun suit to play. And X1 Kai feels better in this game, and so I still have that suit too. Archus also feels better in this game too. The amount of fun I had with the suits in this game are still greater than how much I had with GVS with this. So with that being said, I like MBON more. I think the extended burst is pretty good. I don't see that much of a problem. The suit variety is pretty good, so everyone has all 7 of their Setsunas. I'm just going to keep repeating myself. MBON is a great game. Even from a perspective of someone who played GVS, you don't really need boost dive to do well in this game either. You just gotta learn how to move around. You gotta use the other techniques that have been existing in the game. That's all I have to say. Thanks for sticking by and watching me rant about it, but I'm still gonna play this game a lot. It's pretty enjoyable.